Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. All right, we're going to call the meeting to order. Can you please call roll?
Mrs. Krasinski?
Here.
Mrs. Rossi?
Here.
Mrs. Brewster?
Here.
Mr. Official?
Here.
And Mrs. Hart?
Here.
Can you please stand for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On behalf of the board, I'd like to welcome all students, staff, parents, and interested community members to tonight's Board of Education meeting. I'd like to remind everyone that this is a meeting of the Board of Education held in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It is not to be considered a public meeting. There is time for public comment during the meeting in the public participation section on the agenda. We do have a change to the agenda, so I'm going to go ahead and make that motion first so we can get it added. But we have a resolution to amend the personnel consent agenda, item C, to add the employment of Jeffrey Klinger, maintenance, 1-year limited contract at an hourly rate of $20.44 per hour, step 5, effective May 2nd, 2024. It was an addition afterwards where they made the offer, so I just want to make sure we get that in there. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Official. Any discussion on that? Great. Can you call the roll?
Mrs. Krasinski?
Aye.
Mr. Official?
Aye.
Mrs. Rossi?
Aye.
Mrs. Brewster?
Aye.
Mrs. Hart?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for March 21st, 2024 and April 4th, 2024.
A second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Can you call it?
Mrs. Krasinski?
Aye.
Mrs. Harden?
Aye.
Mrs. Rossi?
Aye.
Mrs. Brewster?
Aye.
And Mr. Official?
Aye.
Motion carried. And that brings us to special reports.
Thank you. We have one special report tonight, and I'm excited to introduce Coach Dave Bors, our athletic director, to kind of give us the board an update on fall and winter sports and recognize our All-Ohio athletes in those two seasons.
All right. Good. Thanks for having me, everybody. Thank you. Down there? Yep. Okay. Okay, so we'll go through our presentation. Sure. Okay, perfect. Okay, chronologically, I realize that we've kind of pumped the information out. The district's done a great job of getting information out, so I don't want to go through like every single little accomplishment thing. This is just kind of like a big picture highlight, maybe focus on a few standard things, still addressing the fall and the winter, but again, it's not going to be forever. I'm not going to read every single bullet point. Kind of, you guys can see it and look at it, and I'm trying to highlight some things, but try and be pretty efficient here and get through, but still do what these kids need to have done, if you will. All right, to start with, we've got the all-conference, all-sports awards. And what those are, that's for each school based on gender, and they're not awarded until the beginning of the next year, school year, because you have to compile everything from the previous year. So oftentimes the previous group doesn't get a chance to enjoy and realize what's been recognized, but I thought chronologically it'd be good to start with this because last year's group, heading into this year, we'll see where things stand this year. For the first time in the conference, our girls received the all-conference, all-sports awards. And it's not based on how many conference championships are won. It's not based on, it's literally a body of work. So if you receive, let's say there's 6 teams in the conference and you're first place, then you'll get 6 points. If you're second place, you get 5, on down the line. And they just add up the entire, seasons, all 3 of them, and you have the divisor. If you don't have a certain sport or whatever, they factor all that in. So it's really a true indication of how, the big picture, both the male and the female programs are doing. And for the first time ever, the girls won it last year, and the boys repeated as champs So we swept the entire conference with all of our programs collectively. So pretty awesome going into this year. I mean, I just want to give a round of applause for all the guys. So starting with that, next we'll kind of get ready to the fall. We've broken down each group and each program. We've got GPA for the varsity teams. We've got the number of scholar athletes, and the scholar athletes are for the conference. How that works is you take the GPA for each individual student athlete during their season. So inevitably for the fall, it's during the first marking period. For the winter, it's going to be during the third marking period. And if you have a 3.5 or better individually, you are honored as a scholar athlete for the conference. So that's what the WRC scholar athletes, that's what that means. And we've also, because we had to compile that data, just took the average GPA of anybody that was a varsity athlete, because that's who qualifies to be a scholar athlete for the conference. You have to have lettered / be a varsity athlete. And then we also have the place that each program finished is next, and then anything kind of extra about it after, if we had somebody advance beyond normal season, if a team did this or that. We got just a couple little sidebars. Like I said, I didn't highlight every single thing. We've had school record holders, and there's just a lot of stuff, so we try to keep it somewhat concise. However, interesting point. If you look at all these GPAs and we're going through it, each program has got over a 3.0 GPA, every single one of them, the lowest being like a 3.1 something. And I averaged all of the programs together, just to see what all the fall and winter teams combined, male and female together. And our student athletes, the varsity members of each one, are averaging a 3.595 GPA collectively for all of our teams. So again, another round of applause. I mean, they're doing a phenomenal job. Okay, so going through, just highlighting a couple quick things. Boys cross country, we had John Young and Mason Weber advance to regionals. It was awesome. Megan Sullivan advanced to regionals and girls cross country. Golf, they were conference champs. They were undefeated 10-0, and the team placed third at sectionals and advanced as a team to district. So that hasn't been done in a long time. So that was pretty awesome. Next slide. Just highlighting a couple of volleyball was sectional champions. They were also district runner-up. Almost got out and made the regionals. Football advanced to the regional semifinals this year. Next slide. Girls basketball, they were conference champions. They were undefeated in the conference, second time in a row. Boys swim and dive, we had sectional champions in the 200-yard freestyle relay with Nathan Kaspersik, Noah Wilson, Daniel Fleck, and Matt Rebar. And the boys 100-yard breaststroke, that was Matt Rebar. So awesome. It's also important to note too, like we weren't having conference champs in every single sport, whatever, but that hasn't happened in the past either. And what was pretty cool to realize, like we haven't finished, if you look at all our places, like we're not below fourth, which is kind of like right in the middle. Like when there's no fifth place, there's no sixth place finishes. They're all in the top, top half, which again is awesome. So we have some pretty darn good schools in this conference, and to give respect to our opponents and other schools is obviously necessary. Gymnastics, Mia Petrogek qualified for states in the floor event, placed 19th at states this year as a sophomore. David Rocha Perez qualified for states 120 pounds and placed 8th. Antonio Botigi, which all these state placers will be recognized here in a little bit. 285 pounds was a state runner-up. Pretty awesome. Indoor track, we had Maddie Moore qualified for states in shot put, and Nathan Kaspersik. He not only qualified for indoor track states, but he also qualified for nationals in the pole vault. He's actually can't be here tonight because he's at pole vault practice. So that's he's continuing on and trying to finish strong with his outdoor season. A couple key events that kind of happened. Again, there's just a lot of key events, but just some, the Riverside Kickoff Classic, we'll light up the night, kind of go top right, and we'll work our way around clockwise. You guys have a picture representing each one, but that was, the annual cross-country event. Cross-country program does a really nice job with that. Over 80 teams from 3 different states attend. It's a middle school and a high school event, so that was pretty cool. The Men of Riverside varsity football game was sold out, first time I've ever heard of or remembered, literally having to stop sell tickets for that, and you kind of get a picture. That's a pretty cool distance shot of our entire stands. and that was probably about 35 minutes before kickoff even started. So great to see the community and support. And then we hosted WRC Conference Cross Country Championships. We hosted the WRC Wrestling Championships this year. We've, the field house was also utilized for Riverside Rumble, which we do wrestling wise. We've done in the past conference track championships this past year in the districts, but with the track resurfacing, that project coming out, we passed that on this year, so that won't be happening. But good stuff. Like, a lot of good things being hosted here and people coming up to the campus. News Herald Player of the Year winners, respectively, in each of their sports. Mikey Maloney, again, chronologically, Mikey Maloney was a Tony Fisher Award winner, second time in a row. He has that honor. Savannah Laurenti, the Kayla Jones Award winner, second time in a row she had that. And Antonio Batigi, Lee Kemp Award winner for wrestling. And again, that's the News Herald, all coverage area, Players of the Year in each of their respective sports. So, having two is phenomenal. Now having three is pretty unbelievable. So again, a round of applause to those. All right, here's something that, as I have thought about it, just truly still blows my mind. So our signing days, we've had 2 signing days so far. And this is where student athletes make their college decisions and they formally sign their letters of intent, which become legal binding documents with the college or university, so both sides commit to each other and move forward for the student athlete's future educationally and athletically. And we have 30 student athletes that have signed to go on and commit their education and their athletic careers at the next level collegiately, which is unbelievable. Now, to put this in perspective, many moons ago, and it's not that many because I was still here to remember whatnot, we used the INSCO conference room for signing days, which means you only had to be, that was with teammates, family and friends, and the individuals. Then we evolved to in here, where this was nice, it was good, but starting to get a little cramped, whatever. Like the auditorium now is somewhat comfortable and feels about right. Like it doesn't even feel like big for the amount of student athletes that are going through and doing these ceremonies. So again, pretty awesome stuff. What's going on? All these kids, committing and taking their studies seriously, but also, athletically. So, like I said, we've had 30. We've got one more signing day in May that's coming up. We've already got a handful committed to that. So be on the lookout for that information being pumped out there when the time comes. Since we're in spring and we don't have a lot of information on springs, we're kind of just getting going. The weather's still kind of, icky at times. And the News Herald, this is a nice little litmus test, the News Herald, they've posted 3 Players of the Week publications for the spring so far. And usually they'll have maybe 9 or 10 total. But the 3 Players of the Week publications that have come out already, we've already had of 24 athletes that have been on it, 6 per day. 8 per, only 3. 8 per. We have 6 honorees already out of 24. So we've got like 25% of the student athletes in the area. And to put that in perspective, if you think of all the teams that News Herald covers with school-wise, we're probably 3 or 4% of that market share of who they cover. And we already have 25% of the Players of the Week for the spring so far. So again, just phenomenal stuff by our programs and athletes and families and coaches. And so I'd like to honor those spring athletes. We have Emmy Jarris for softball, John Young and Megan Sullivan for track, and then Colin Boris and Annalise Davis for softball have been honored to this point. So round of applause for those athletes. Okay. As we're winding down here, it comes time to honor the All-Ohio /state qualifiers. So if you're an individual sport, you can qualify for state on your own. If you're a team sport, the only way you can qualify for state technically is the team makes it to state, which is a different animal. It's a different animal than an individual sport. However, with the team sports, they do honor All-Ohio participants. So it's kind of in that category. So we kind of categorize it as state athletic honorees. If you were recognized at state level, and someone put it to me this way, like, Coach, you realize that if you're at the state level, whether you make it to state, which are the bottom tier here, and again, not bottom because there's anything, it's just the order we listed everybody in, again, kind of chronologically to some extent. But it goes, if you're a state recognized student athlete, whether you make it to state individually, your team does, or you're All-Ohio honoree, that somebody clicking on a website that's originated, or opening a newspaper that's originated in Dayton, Cincinnati, Columbus, Worthington, you name it, Findlay, Cleveland, Painesville, like, those are the names. That's statewide. It does not matter that you have to be this Northeast Ohio, like literally these names and our kids were represented at a statewide level and on a statewide level through no matter where you were, even if you're in East Liverpool, down on the river and whatever. It's awesome stuff. So we're going to call them up, Board of Education. I know you guys are going to present them the certificate. And so you guys can each kind of come up. So we're going to have a group picture. And I'm just going to call you one by one. Obviously, everyone can read, but I will go in order. No tricks here. But give everyone a round of applause as they're walking up, and we'll go to the next one. All right, so we're just going in order. Mikey Maloney, first team All-Ohio quarterback. Brady McKnight, first team All-Ohio wide receiver. Antonio Botigi, first team defensive lineman. Is Sam here?
No.
No, okay, still honor him obviously. Sam Selminen, first team linebacker. Isaiah Walter, second team All-Ohio offensive line. Don Kirks, second team All-Ohio defensive line. And lastly for football, Jason Mackey, honorable mention All-Ohio running back. On to girls basketball, probably the most decorated player in school history. Third team All-Ohio, Savannah Laurenti, come on up. And now our state qualifiers, literally as individuals qualify for their respective sports. We've already kind of addressed them, but come up and get your due, obviously, student athletes. Mia Petrogak, gymnastics. Place in floor routine. Maddie Moore, indoor track, shot put. And we all already know Nathan Kaspersik for pole vault is not here, but round of applause for Nathan. David Rota Perez, wrestling. Make the podium. Very impressive. And, guys already up here, but Antonio Botigi, wrestling state runner-up. Okay, one more round of applause, right? And then,
Perfect. Congratulations.
congrats, guys.
Thank you. So I have one more special report. Coach, don't go anywhere. So it is worth recognizing that Coach Bors did step down from being the head football coach this year. After 14 seasons and having done a little bit of coaching myself, I know how much of a sacrifice that is to all those around. So he's going to get to know his family a little bit more now, which is, I don't know if they're happy about that or not.
I think it's split. I think, yeah.
So we do have a plaque recognizing it. I just want to read what it says. It says, "Thank you, Dave Bors, Riverside Beavers, head football coach 2010 to 2024. Congratulations on a great career." And just some of the accolades: 85 wins, including 7 playoff wins. And I think that's 7 more than anyone ever else has. Is that correct?
Yeah.
2012 Liberty Ford Coach of the Year. 2013, 2018, 2020, and 2022 Lake County Touchdown Club Coach of the Year. 2022 Division II Northeast Lakes District Coach of the Year. 2022 Ohio High School Football Coaches Association and Region 5 Coach of the Year. I'm getting tired here. 2022 Associated Press All-Ohio Division II Coach of the Year. Again, like he said, that is statewide, everyone, and voted on by the media. 2022 Bob Ridley Award, which is given to the News Herald's Football Coach of the Year. And the 2013, 2018, and 2022 Western Reserve Conference Coach of the Year. Coach, there's big shoes to fill, and congratulations and thank you.
Well, I've already said it in kind of a release, if you will, and I'm kind of glad I went through all the emotions a handful of days ago and weeks ago, because this would not be good right now. But thank everybody, from the board, administration, to support community, I mean, everybody, all the athletes, and even the ones that I have not formally coached football-wise, because that support and you guys just being great kids and busting your tails as competitors, it's made everything better, easier, more enjoyable. And I think one thing that allows me to be able to do this maybe a little easier than it would have been, because I still feel like 100%, like it's not going to be. Like there's no way to do it because that's all you know. But just being able to still work with the kids that are in this room and all the accolades they had up there, I'm like knowing like I'm not shutting it off, and I don't have to like just walk away and turn my back. I mean, I'm excited. It's awesome, and like I say, just being part of this great community and school district. Thank everybody. I do. It's been awesome. Thank you.
I've known Coach Bors for a long time now, and I will tell you that this is not easy for him, nor is he incredibly comfortable right now when people say the great things about him, but I can't speak enough highly when the opportunity came to actually bring him here and have him have the impact that he's had for 14 years on our student athletes. It's been amazing, and even as I left to come back, I was always kind of following the program and watching what he did to build the program up and then hand it over. It's amazing. I look forward to the great things coming as he continues to shape all athletes moving forward. So thank you again, Coach, for a great career. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to old business, and I did not get anything via email. Is there any old business to review? I thought if I got the old business going to stay.
Yeah, right. They're like,
Important part.
thank you.
All right, that'll bring us to new business then. Any new business? There was nothing submitted? All right, that brings us to the Board of Education Committee and Liaison Reports. First one is Superintendent's Business Advisory. We did not have a meeting this past month, so there's nothing to report out. That brings us to Curriculum and Programming Committee, Facilities Liaison, Mrs. Brewster.
Okay. We met on April 3rd with the Curriculum Programs Committee, and the state of Ohio has recently released their Science of Reading requirements via legislation that's been passed. So there are 2 considerations for our district. One is a requirement for professional development for all staff Even if you're teaching science, you're going to have some training in the science of reading. K-3 staff has already completed dyslexia training of approximately 8 hours, so at least they have quite a bit of training under their belt. The early literacy competency will require 20 hours of online training, but the online is not available yet, but it's supposed to be available for teachers to do this on their own time, from what I understand. Other staff will have training related to their teaching level and area of content. The state is reimbursing school districts as their staff receives stipends once their training is completed. So it'll be somewhere between $400 and $1,200, depending on how much training they are required to take. And the second consideration is curriculum selection. Although the state says in their training materials there are no required materials, there are endorsed programs that districts must select to be compliant with the state. So down the road for our board, we may be purchasing some materials. That has not come to fruition yet. Currently, one of the programs that the state has endorsed is the Foundations program, which we already do in kindergarten through 2nd grade. That's the phonics component, so that will remain. And our ELA coordinators will use Wit and Wisdom. As I said, the district's going to receive some money for support and buying materials, but then we'll be making up the difference. In grades 3 through 5, no phonics, but they will use something different which offers more student choice, and that's yet to be determined. We do currently have phonics support for some students in 3rd through 5th, though, if it's needed. And then grades 6 through 8, actually, and looking on 6 through 12, I should say, we're looking at programs, checking with other districts. We're seeing what other materials are being used, and the state hasn't quite come out with every opportunity of where we're going to go with that. It's kind of open-ended. So that's why we're having conversations with other districts like Kirtland, and I think you were talking to Perry and a couple others. Okay. Other topics that were covered at our meeting was a review of the SAVIS math program, which is a program that is about to expire. It's an online subscription, correct? And Mr. Hall, our high school principal, is gathering data to determine next steps with that. So we'll be looking at that over the next year. There's also the consideration for exam exemptions for high school students, and we're going to look at the schedule next year to determine what those options will be for students. Okay? And then special education monitoring update. They basically review 5 special education records which is required to see if there's any corrective action plans. And I don't know if there's any updates yet, but
So we're just in phase 2. We completed phase 1 and we've gotten the clearance through phase 1. Phase 2, we submit 5 documents to the state, and then we'll get feedback, and from there, if all documents submitted are compliant, then we go into a 2-year kind of monitoring process from that point.
okay, and that's something that's done in every school district. That's how they oversee special education.
Well, it's not they select different school districts throughout each year. So every
Yeah.
school district doesn't go through it every year, right? It's
Right,
like
it's
Okay.
certain ones
Yeah,
each year.
exactly.
Right. And then an update on the preschool. We had the registration. It filled up quickly. Preschool, also this current preschool had a visit from the Step Up to Quality evaluation person, and they received 4 stars. Currently, that program is managed by the Ohio Department of Education. Formerly, it was with Jobs and Family Services. So we're hoping that some of the amount of paperwork that's very repetitive, it is supposed to be less in the future. Especially when you have programming, like next year, it'll be at 2 different schools, so you have to almost duplicate that requirement, and it's usually 2 notebooks that are about 4 inches thick for each school. So it's a lot. I did it once. And then autism students are being introduced into the workforce, and so that's a program we do. And I also asked Dr. Malakar about the testing season. How's that going?
Actually, it's going phenomenal. We started this week and it went off without a hitch. I remember when we first started state testing and I ran around in every building like a chicken with my head cut off. I actually forgot it was starting this week. So that's a great thing because nobody called me, nobody complained, there were no huge blow-ups, so it's going great.
Oh, this
Kids
is
are
a good
doing
thing.
well. Yep.
All right, great, because all of our testing is online. Okay, thank you. That's all I have unless someone has any questions. Okay, or you want to add anything, Jeff?
No, that's great.
All right.
All right, that brings us to Buildings, Grounds, Operations Committee, Alumni Association, Mr. Fischel.
So with the Alumni Association, is determining who the scholarships will go to this year. And also a reminder, June 8th, the golf outing, looking for golfers, looking for foursomes. And more to come in the future. Always looking for new members. Any Riverside grad, they would love to have sign up as an Alumni Association member. Okay. Buildings.
Do you know where they sign up for the golf outing yet?
I'm sorry?
Do you know where they sign up for the golf outing yet?
I think there's an online.
Like a Riverside alumni
Mhm.
website.
Right, yeah, and I think you can do it online.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, so buildings and grounds. The Lamouth Gym project, the floor, it's scheduled to start July 15th. Mr. Arlesic said that we're expecting 3 to 4 weeks. And also what goes along with that is Boardman Athletics Group is looking to move the bleachers as the floor process takes place. There will be some tuck pointing on the walls that is necessary. And painting contractors had been contacted. I don't know if there's an update, if you've gotten prices yet or not.
I've met with 3 prices coming next week.
Okay, so we should be all set to choose a painting contractor for that. And then once the floor is complete, we could be on the floor and the new basketball hoops will be installed, and small note, adjusted to 10 feet. So it'll not be quite perfect when you add a little bit of flooring. So anyway, and new hoops going in. New doors were installed in the high school. 2 double-door exterior doors behind the gym were replaced, and 3 single doors were replaced behind the auditorium. The doors and the frames are currently primer gray and will be painted over the summer, color yet to be determined. On the science room roof, we think we've determined that it is actually the roof unit that is leaking, and we've had preliminary discussions about replacing that unit when the building project takes place. We had a meeting with 5 companies and did interviews for the owner's rep, and then a little update on that. We had an open public meeting at 5 o'clock, and the 3 finalists gave other presentations and were interviewed. And you'll see something later in the meeting about that. And then the track replacement bid, looks like it came in, and it looks like Vasco Sports Contractors, the bid opening was April 10th, and Vasco Sports Contractors is receiving the bid at $455,777. And that's for the track replacement. Lamouth bathroom renovations, waiting for info from TDA for the details on that. Mr. Arlesic, any update on that?
On which one?
On the Lamouth bathroom renovations, update from TDA?
We're still waiting from TDA to come back.
Okay, thank you on that. And then waiting on cost for the backup generator for the campus. Anything there, still waiting?
Well, we discussed the budget number in the buildings and grounds, and it was
$135,000.
electrically shocking.
So it's still under consideration. And that came from Jim's Electric. And then also Jim's Electric, $9,850 to replace 2 wiring harnesses in the football stadium inside the 2 light towers. We talked about Ambitious Landscaping giving a price of $16,100. It was recommended we continue to hire them because it's about the same price as last year, and they did an excellent job last year. And that's all I have for buildings and grounds. Ms. Grassi, do you have anything?
Nope. Yeah, I had one question.
Yes.
What's happening with the Riverside bathrooms? Is there any update or?
The Riverside bathrooms?
They're gonna get deep cleaned, and we're still in discussion as what to do with the partitions.
With the partitions?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
It's just a little bit of a logistics question, and decisions are going to have to be made, that's all.
Okay. So it's still on a burner?
They're still on the radar.
Yeah.
Right, thank you.
Great, thank you. That brings us to policy committee and legislative liaison.
Sure, we did not have a policy committee meeting. We're going to need to schedule one because we have policies to review. So we'll have to do that within the next month before the next board meeting. Other than that, so legislatively, I'm just going to go through the weekly updates and just provide some information. So the week of March 18th, the Study Commission on the Future of Gaming in Ohio met to hear from key stakeholders in Ohio's sports gaming market. The legislature increased the tax rate from 10 to 20% in the state's biennium budget last year, with 98% of the tax revenues from that set aside to help fund schools and Ohio's scholarship programs. I just thought that was interesting because we all know that the state lottery money was slated for to help fund schools also, and we continue to see our money from the state decline year after year. So that will be interesting to see how that all pans out. House Bill 411 has been introduced in the Ohio General Assembly to increase the minimum salary schedule for Ohio teachers that is found in the Ohio Revised Code, and the proposed legislation would increase the teacher annual salary for holders of bachelor's degrees from $35,000 to $52,000. The proposed legislation is currently in the House Primary and Secondary Education Committee. We will be keeping an update on that. The Ohio General Assembly is on break following the March 19th primary and is expected to return to Columbus the second week of April, so that would be now. Since January, when they convened, only 17 bills have become law, and typically over 100 bills are passed during a General Assembly each year. So in April, several big items will consume the legislature's time, one being the capital budget, which includes funding for school buildings that is managed by the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission. The legislature isn't expected to be in the State House during April, May, and June very much, with only 2 session days planned before each month before the legislature leaves Columbus for summer break. There's a lot of disagreement over the capital budget currently. They have allocated $600 million for the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission, and I don't think that's the holdup right now. The holdup is between the legislature and the Senate on an additional $700 million for projects that have to do with community initiatives and that fund things like, stadiums or public parks, public buildings and public facilities. And the House of Representatives allocated half of those dollars, $350 million, with the anticipation that the Senate would then come back with their own projects for half of the dollars, and the Senate declined to name $350 million worth of projects, and so now they're going to argue back and forth, and that probably won't happen until June 30th. So we wait for the capital budget to be coming out. That will be something that I'll be following. We've talked about the Joint Committee on Property Tax Review and Reform previously. They continue to hear testimony by invitation only. Education groups are testifying in mid-April and will explain the complexities of local and state education funding. The panel will address questions regarding the 20 mil floor, levies, cash balances, and how abatements impact local funding, among other topics. The committee is expected to take public testimony before wrapping up their hearings sometime in June, and the committee has a deadline of December 31st, 2024 to issue their recommendations to the Ohio General Assembly. So if they plan on having open hearings in June, we will let people know if they are interested in going down and testifying, but that information has to be submitted to the legislature prior to, so we can provide some information on how to do that if people are interested. Recently introduced legislation House Bill 470, requiring the Department of Education to conduct an annual audit regarding state assessments. I read some information on that whole bill as introduced, and it includes a whole gamut of information that they would review almost every single aspect of the cost related to state assessments, from top to bottom. So I thought that was interesting. The week of April 8th, Governor DeWine gave his State of the State speech. It was, the summary here says it was heavily focused on Ohio's children and their futures. The governor spoke on the creation of new programs, such as the Principal Apprentice Program to help craft Ohio's future education leaders, and the creation of more school-based health centers. The governor also called on the legislature to add career planning to the state's high school graduation requirements and to expand funding for career tech education to ensure every student who wishes to participate has the opportunity. He also asked the legislature to require districts, I highlighted this. He also asked the legislature to require districts to adopt cell phone usage policies to tackle the issue of cell phone disruptions in the classroom. I thought maybe some teachers would like to hear that. The House Higher Education Committee passed House Bill 183, which would require schools to designate single-sex bathrooms and locker room access in primary and secondary schools and institutions of higher education. The State Board of Education met to discuss House Bill 33 changes that flattened the grade band licensure structure for teachers from 3 bands to 2. So now you have, right now you had elementary, middle level, and then 7-12 basically, and now I think they're going K-8.
K-8, 512?
K-8, 5-12.
I think that's what it is.
From 3 to 2, suffice it today. The study commission on the future of gaming in Ohio, I already said that. New bills introduced, House Bill 485 would make changes regarding school internet safety policy and instruction on the effects of social media in public schools. There was a lot of information going back and forth, if you've kept up with the news, about the voucher program and the private school voucher program expansion. I just have some information that I was able to pull. There were 87,312 scholarships awarded since March 18th, amounting to over $394 million in allocated funding according to the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. And there's just been a lot of talk about it. It's been on the news. People are starting to get a little bit more interested in where their tax dollars are going. And now they're also considering, building new schools with some of the dollars that come from the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission. So there's that also. I think that's almost all I have. I know that we talk as a board about cash balances, and when we talk about the 5-year forecast, that has been something that the legislature has been looking at. The OSBA and OASBO also have recommendations on why districts would want to have cash balance levels that they maintain at the end of each school year. At Riverside, our policy is 30%. 30% of our funding level we want to have in reserve, and so 2 years in advance of the expected date that we would hit that is when we would have to start talking about levies and, with the possibility of that. And so with the 5-year forecast coming up, that's going to be something that we're going to start to have to consider. If anybody's interested, there is a bulletin that's out. It's a white paper, general revenue fund cash balances, management guidance, and best practices that Ohio Association of School Business Officials puts out for light reading. Just saying. That's all I have for this week.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to superintendent's report.
All right, a couple of things for today. First of all, I wanted to provide the board with an update on the facilities plan and kind of where this committee is headed and what we've done. We've had to pivot a lot because somebody went out and got us $2.5 million for an addition, so it changed a little bit of what we've had to do, but it's super exciting that we can do that. The initial committee has been meeting and putting together some initial plan ideas. We reviewed some of those pertinent documents, Cleveland Bialowski, MV5, kind of everything that we have to really come together with some plans to start from. So we came up with 3 sound approaches to a comprehensive facility plan that we can build from. The next steps are, now that we have this addition, to really work with that and the owner's rep, the board chooses, to get some feedback from that and kind of build upon that and kind of what we can move into, not only this addition project and this building project, but also kind of how we can shore up some of these products and projects and utilize a lot of some of the contracts that are on site with scheduling and all that. Another next step is really looking at getting that community input. So we are working on a community application process for a steering committee, which we kind of identified as 25 as that sweet spot of actual community members who, of a cross-section of those community members who want to actually be involved and give some of their time to be a part of this, to provide feedbacks on these shared plans and take 3 and whittle it down to 2 or even just 1 solid plan. Also kind of what we're looking for in terms of just not only educational spaces, but community spaces. We've talked a lot of conversations come out about how our schools are utilized, not only by just our students and our teachers, but also the community as a whole, and what we can do to better utilize that and bring all of our communities together and use the schools as kind of that center hub, and where we would look for some of that. And then we also had the discussion about, we've got all these great big wants and needs and dreams, how do we work with some funding and alternative funding sources to help with some of that as we move towards this, to kind of have some of that burden. So we've had some of that and bringing those people together. Applicants who are not selected for this steering committee will all ultimately be involved, engaged in the process throughout it. And we want to get as many people as we can who are interested in having a voice in the school's future and what our choice is, to be a part of that and kind of give their feedback along the way. So that's where our committee has gone along the way. We are kind of moving into those next steps shortly within this next month.
Do we know when do you think you'll have the community pulled in?
So we are looking to get that application out pretty soon. We have some draft of it. We want to make sure that it really spells just the fact that this is a work session. We're not asking for any, and kind of run that through legal and make sure that we've hit all the auditor of state's guidance. We want to make sure we hit all that, and we're following that, as well as then get that survey out. Hopefully by the middle of May, I think is a fair deadline. I think we could be.
Hopefully, yeah. Next couple weeks,
Yeah, within
early
the next
May.
couple weeks, kind of open that process up for applications.
And we were looking for a good cross-section. I mean, yes, you want parents of students in schools, but you also would like senior citizens or people not, they're community members and they no longer have children in the school. And so there's, a good cross-section of people that we'd like to see represented on this committee.
One of the exciting things we've talked about, even with the addition of the CTE building and wing, is if we can design it in such a way that we can open just that portion of it for community use, similar to like the Hive, or some of the to have our community come in and have our students teach our community members how to use some of those makerspace equipment. We think that'd be a great opportunity. They can get some of those service hours, as well as just kind of provide opportunities for our community to use some of our resources along the way and kind of keep, engage more interaction with the schools that way as well.
So with the thank you, $2.5 million grant, it's throwing something new in, right? So I just want to make sure, like, as we think about prioritizing those projects and making sure we get the project done and everything like that, like the timing, you feel like the timing is good, we'll get everybody?
I feel like the timing, now that we have a real, I feel like we're still on pace for that. I think we're in the community. And I also think having that owner's rep tonight and then really engaging, and the faster we get engaged with them for this moving forward, I think is going to be a key to this as well, to have, even in speaking about, yes, we're doing this, but we also know there's all these other things that we want to do, and here's our priorities. And if you're considering putting, a roof on one building, well, maybe you want to just extend that out and kind of look at doing that as an alternate to fix some of the other issues that are up there and kind of what this looks like. So I think it's a great opportunity to utilize resources in a different way and even look at kind of how we're building the space, so it really fits, multiple reasons.
Great.
And then just some highlights. I know that it's hard to believe, but we had an Easter egg hunt and it snowed. We had about 2 inches of snow for the Easter egg hunt, but yet the Easter Bunny and the Beaver made an appearance, and it was a fun time for the 3 minutes that the Easter eggs went. It was ready, set, go. They're gone. So it was a little bit more of a challenge picking up Easter eggs with gloves on, but it did lead to a good time for a great community event. And special thank you to all of our PTAs who kind of came together to supply the eggs, as well as the adult volunteers who helped with the event on. And it was a great time to be there. I do have a selfie with the Easter Bunny that I sent out, but I was going to add it, but I just didn't. But it's a great opportunity. You never have that again. So here's some of our security officers who showed up to take their picture with the Easter Bunny and the beaver. So it was a good time. Spring Carnival happened last weekend, put on by our National Honor Society. This is the second annual Spring Carnival that they put on in the Field House. It was a really rainy day in April, and we had more than 430 people attend, and the funds raised benefited the Lake County Council on Aging this year, so it was a great event for them. Some upcoming events. We are excited that, again, the National Honor Society this Saturday is hosting the Spring Fling Craft Show, and my understanding is, from the table request, that it is a filled house and packed house. So come on in and see the local vendors, show their wares, and those benefits, again, I think it's the County of Age. I believe they are going to the Aging.
Council on Aging
Council on
and
Aging as well.
NHS scholarships.
And so,
Yeah, I think there's, as of last week, she had over 50 vendors signed up.
Awesome.
And that's probably grown in the past week.
So again, a reminder that it's time to register for kindergarten. We want to get our kindergartners registered, and we do have a kindergarten kickoff night. That is, I can't read this because I didn't glasses, May 8th from 5:30 to 7:30 at the building. We're excited about that. It's kind of the first time that we're going to bring our kindergartners in for a meet the teachers, a PTO information. But this is actually started by the kindergarten teachers. And they kind of generated some momentum towards this. So really excited for them to kind of get into their first year, also to kind of see what to expect, what the first year looks like for new parents of kindergartners, as well as some handouts, snacks. The bus will be there, so they can get out and look at the bus. We're going to have buses there. So really excited about what kind of is to come with this night, and hope it's a great turnout. As well as we will have registration there for families who are having a difficult time navigating some of the online registration. We'll have people there to assist them in registering their students for kindergarten. And that concludes my update for tonight.
Think about that, you see that, right?
All right, that brings us to treasurer's report and committee updates. So first is finance, audit, personnel committee, and booster organization liaison. This is started.
We met on April 11th at 7:30. I got nervous for a second. At 7:30 in the morning. Personnel update. They got lots of applicants for the Riverside High School assistant principal position, both internal, external. So those that's in the process right now. We do have some retirements we saw on the agenda in nutrition. So there's some people we've really had for a long time here, so very big congratulations to our people retiring. We'll read them when we get to that point. We also have a guidance resignation that we need to fill, Coach Boer's football position as well. May contracts are being worked on right now, so you'll have lots to sign, I'm sure, in May when we have all that going on. What's that?
It's electronic.
I know, it's so much easier now, right?
It's a lot easier.
Then we went through the board agenda review for finance, all the stuff that was going to be on it. We spoke about the Lake County School Financing District Review. The first read of that will be coming up soon for the Joint Financing Committee renewal. That will be on the ballot. Also spoke about the ESC of the Western Reserve and our options with that, with the ESC, if we're going to be continuing with them or looking elsewhere. Property tax settlements, those came in later than normal since it usually comes in March, but we did receive those. And then we spoke with the bus undercoating, the research and cost analysis. We don't have all the information on that yet. Our administration is meeting with Mr. Andre and looking at cost, longevity, all those kind of things. We do apparently do some undercoating when we get the buses, so that's still something they're speaking about to still look into it. Did I miss anything else?
Will we have the second read of the joint financing in May?
In May.
Okay, yeah, because they don't have a meeting in June.
July. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And that was it. And then boosters, I think they're probably, I'm sure they're at the point of the usual stuff right now. We're getting ready to vote on their members or their boards for next year, but a big thank you to all of our booster groups and all the things that they've done for our students and
our staff and all the great things they do for this district, because we certainly could not do a lot of things without them. So very grateful for all of our booster groups. And that's it.
Thank you. All right, update from the treasurer.
I will keep it short tonight, since we did have the presentations earlier, and I'm sure Mr. Plackville will make it up next month.
With any luck.
Maybe, so.
Your favorite treasurer.
Just going through some of our normal financial information. Our total cash balance is about $34.5 million. General fund making 18.8 of that. Our PI fund is currently sitting at $5,800,000 unencumbered. Our appropriations and revenue estimates are 3/4 of the way through our fiscal year, and revenue is sitting at 67%. But as Ms. Harden mentioned, and I mentioned again, we normally get our tax settlement in the month of March. It hit at the beginning of April. That's our biggest source of revenue, and so once we get that booked and you see April's, that number will probably jump dramatically. So. And expenditures are running a little under at 72.4%. Just some information for our revenue, $1.2 million, which included about $568,000 for our foundation. As I mentioned, we do get some of our property taxes, but since we have a couple parcels in Geauga, we did get that amount, $78,000. As mentioned, Lake County will be hit in April. Interest revenue for March, just under $74,000, and STAR's current rate was at just under 5.5%. Red Tree just under 4%, for an overall yield of 4.8%. And our March expenditures were just a little over $4.1 billion. As mentioned earlier by Mr. Fishel, we did have our track opening, a bid opening on April 10th. Vasco was the lowest bidder. Their contract is on the agenda for tonight. It's projected to be completed over the summer with some limited work into the fall. Once we get everything up and running, we'll kind of have more of a schedule for that once for all the fall sports. And then also as mentioned, the Lake County Financing District levy renewal, we will have the first resolution on tonight. That goes into the county auditor for certification. Our second resolution to actually proceed to put on the ballot will be in May. That information then goes to the ESC of Western Reserve, who is the fiscal agent for the financing district. They will then do the same voting for May and June, since they do not have anything in July, and we have to have everything certified by the beginning of August to get it on the ballot for November. So that, any questions, but that takes me through tonight.
Great, thank you, Mr. Peruzzi.
I just want to mention, I think it's interesting, when I mentioned the voucher program previously, that if we received pretty much every dollar that they received for the people who get vouchers, and I'm just averaging because it's less for the elementary students as it is for high school students, and approximating what we get for number of students, we would get over $30 million in state funding when we only get $518,000, was it 500?
60,000 for the month.
Which is only about $6.2 million for the year. So that's a huge difference in the amount of money that we get versus what we would get if we were being funded by vouchers. I think that's just worthy to keep noting. It used to come out of our budget. It doesn't come out of our budget anymore. Those dollars are not taken from our finances. Those are coming from other funds that you pay your state income taxes. So it's just something for people to be aware of.
Great, thank you. That brings us to public participation. Anyone wishing to address the Board of Education will be recognized by the Board President. Speakers are requested to speak from the podium, identify themselves and their topic. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Is there any public participation tonight? No? All right, thank you. Brings us to our consent agendas. First up is Finance and Audit.
Motion to approve, resolution to approve the monthly financial reports, or I'm sorry, motion to approve items A through P, if I could have a second. A second. I would like to, where did the donations go? Sorry. There they are. Just wanted to acknowledge the donations we got, $200 from Thomas and Janice Wunderlich for the Janice Wunderlich Scholarship, and $250 from BPO Elks, number 549, for the David Baker Memorial Scholarship Fund.
Item C on our agenda is also the resolution of necessity for the joint financing district, so that's on
It
here
is.
also.
All right, there's no further discussion, we can call a roll.
Mrs. Harden,
Aye.
Mrs. Grassi,
Aye.
Mrs. Krasinski,
Aye.
Mrs. Brewster,
Aye.
and Mr. Fischel.
Aye.
Motion carried. That brings us to personnel.
Motion to approve items A through H on the personnel agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
I would just like, there's one retirement on here that I would like to make note of, Mary
Me
Turner,
too.
who's retiring as our kitchen manager at Riverside Campus effective July 31st. She's been with us forever, and she's just an amazing person, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
so.
We appreciate everybody.
Yep.
All right, if there's no further discussion, if you can call the roll, please.
Can I just double check who did the second?
Mrs. Grassi.
Thank you.
I
Okay.
almost forgot. I wrote it.
I did too.
Mrs. Harden,
Aye.
Mrs. Grassi,
Aye.
Mrs. Krasinski,
Aye.
Ms. Brewster,
Aye.
and Mr. Fischel.
Aye.
Motion carried. Brings us to the consent agenda for curriculum and programming. Ms. Brewster?
I did not have anything to be active on tonight, did I?
Yeah.
Wait a minute, hold on.
A and B.
A and B.
A and B.
Keep going.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
You got it?
Oh, yeah. All right. I didn't know that we were doing that. Okay, I need a motion for the Riverside 2024 girls basketball. Is that it?
No,
Here,
item
keep
C.
going.
One
A,
more page.
One more page.
A and B.
I'm sorry.
It's just A and B.
A and B, I see that.
Okay. All right, so I need a motion for
You're making
A
a motion.
through B.
Yeah, you're making a motion.
I'm making a motion, I need a second, to approve the items in the consent agenda for curriculum and programming,
Items.
as recommended by the superintendent.
Items A and B. Items A and B.
Items A and B.
I will second.
Sorry about that.
It's all right. Any discussion? Hearing none.
Will you call the roll?
Mrs. Brewster,
Aye.
Mrs. Grassi,
Aye.
Mrs. Krasinski,
Aye.
Mr. Fischel,
Aye.
and Ms. Harden.
Aye.
Motion carried. That brings us to the consent agenda for buildings and grounds and operations.
I make a motion to approve the items listed on the Buildings and Grounds Operations Consent Agenda as recommended by the superintendent, items A through C.
I second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Fischel,
Aye.
Mrs. Harden,
Aye.
Mrs. Krasinski,
Aye.
Mrs. Grassi,
Aye.
Mrs. Brewster.
Aye.
And we have a
Motion
second.
carried, sorry.
Go ahead.
Just motion carried, go ahead.
Okay, okay, so we have a second item. I make a resolution ranking the owners' representative firms for the Riverside Campus Facilities Improvement Project and authorizing district officials to negotiate contract terms with the most qualified firm. And the rankings were RFC number 1, PMC number 2, and Cleora number 3. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I thank the Buildings and Grounds Committee for doing all the work to bring those groups here to us today. We at least had 3 really good options, so I'm
Thank you.
excited about who we chose though too.
Thank you. Can you call the roll?
Mr. Fischel,
Aye.
Mrs. Grassi,
Aye.
Mrs. Krasinski,
Aye.
Mrs. Brewster,
Aye.
and Ms. Harden.
Aye.
Motion carried. All right, that brings us to the Board of Education update. Any updates from the board?
I would just encourage our seniors again, I know we're coming up on the time of year when those scholarship deadlines are coming up, so if seniors have not yet applied for scholarships, please go on our Riverside website and make sure you navigate over to that scholarship page, because we do always have a lot of scholarships available for our seniors, so we're all here trying to give away money to you guys, so we'd love to see people apply.
And does the school communicate it out to, through the guidance and everything? Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Because I've been on the other side of that, and I'm just, for Lake County retired teachers, we just interviewed students last night, and you don't get very many applicants.
They
We don't.
typically email the senior class.
Okay.
We have received
Once
it.
every 2 weeks with all types of
Okay, good.
updates, scholarships,
Great.
cap and gown,
Perfect,
senior project.
thank you.
If they want to work at it, they can
Yep.
get some money,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that helps.
Any other Board of Education updates? Good to go?
Yep.
All right, so our next meetings, we have Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting, May 14th at 7:30 a.m. Curriculum and Programming Committee meeting, May 15th at 7:30 a.m. Finance and Personnel Committee meeting, May 16th at 7:30 a.m. And our regular Board of
No, what were we all
Education meeting is May 23rd at 6
Who
p.m.
agreed to that? Denise, what were we thinking? What do you do back-to-back meetings?
Yeah, we did.
All right, so I make a motion to adjourn at 8:06 p.m.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Fischel. And can we call the roll, please?
Mrs. Krasinski,
Aye.
Mr. Fischel,
Aye.
Mrs. Grassi,
Aye.
Ms. Brewster,
Aye.
and Ms. Hart.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.